I don't think there is a way you can read the Good Samaritan story or the rest of Jesus' teachings with the idea that it is okay to treat someone from a different group with any kind of disrespect. Wasn't Jesus trying to break down borders that Israel put up to everyone else in the world? What we do know is that Jesus left a Jewish area around the Sea of Galilee to go to a Gentile city around the Sea of Galilee in Tyre. He didn't want anyone to know that he had entered a house, but he couldn't hide. He was trying to find a place of refuge and peace to be with his disciples and rest from the crowds that constantly followed him from Jerusalem to Nazareth to Galilee to Capernaum to Tyre. This woman interrupted his vacation, his Sabbath. We've all heard this saying from Benjamin Franklin, time is money. We live in a busy, busy world, especially here in the United States. I have a story for you about a father and son. Dad, may I ask a question? Yeah, sure, son. What is it? Dad, how much do you make an hour? Well, son, that's none of your business. Why do you ask such a thing? I just want to know. Please tell me how much you make an hour. I make $10 an hour. Oh. Dad, may I borrow $7? If the only reason you ask that is so you can borrow some money to buy some silly toy or some other nonsense, then march yourself right back upstairs to your room and shut the door and go to bed. Think why you are being selfish. I work hard every day and do not have time for such childish behaviors at the end of the day. The little boy quietly walked up the stairs and shut the door. The man sat downstairs and started to get even angrier as he thought about the little boy's questions. How dare he ask such a question only to get some money? After about an hour or so, the man started to calm down, to chill out, and started to think. Maybe there was something he really needed to buy with that $7, and he really doesn't ask for money that often. So the man went upstairs to his boy's room and opened the door. Are you asleep, son? No, Dad, I'm awake. I've been thinking, maybe I was a little too hard on you earlier. It's been a long day, and I may have taken out my frustrations and aggravation on you. Here's the $7 you asked for. The boy sat up straight and, oh, thanks, Dad. Then reaching under his pillow, he grabbed a crumpled up handful of dollar bills. Seeing that the boy already had money, the father started to get angry again. Then the boy slowly counted out his money and then looked up at his father. His father said, why do you want money if you already have some? Because I didn't have enough, but now I do. Dad, I now have $10. Can I buy an hour of your time? Please come home early tomorrow. I'd like to have dinner with you. I've told some of you about a trip I made a couple years ago. I went to the Middle East for 3 weeks on a trip that was called the Middle Eastern Travel Seminar. It was with a group of seminary students, lay leaders, and 2 college professors who led the group. It was a group of different political beliefs, different religious beliefs. One of our lay leaders was Jewish, different backgrounds, and we hit a variety of different denominations. We had Southern Baptists, we had non-Southern Baptists, we had Methodists, Church of Christ, and Presbyterians. We traveled all over the Middle East, from Syria to Lebanon, back to Syria, to Jordan, to Egypt, to Israel, and then to Greece. We were on a fairly tight schedule. This was not a leisure vacation trip. It was a hard trip, physically, emotionally, and spiritually demanding. One day we hiked Petra in 5 hours. Petra, for Indiana Jones fans, is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, riding through the mountain That's Petra. But that's only the very front part of Petra. Petra is a huge mountain. So we basically hiked 11 miles in 5 hours up mountains. I didn't have trouble sleeping at night. Through these 3 weeks, I tried to stay at the front of the group because I didn't want to miss anything that Max Miller, our leader, had to say or was showing us. They also told us that they had left people behind before and forced them to find their own way back to the hotel. So I didn't want to get left behind, especially since the very first day in Damascus, I didn't have a watch, and they almost left me at the hotel when we were going to go see Damascus. I made some great friends on this trip, but none others like Jose and Katie. Jose and Katie were both from Emmanuel School of Religion in Johnson City, Tennessee. Jose and I hit it off right from the very beginning of the trip. There were some who thought we knew each other for years, only to find out a couple weeks into the trip that we had just met on our first day of orientation. Jose and Katie were masters at learning from the cultures around us. They stopped and talked to everyone native to the area. They would find out facts only natives knew about the city or region that we were in. They also had a presence about them that told whoever they were communicating with that you have my undivided attention. It became a joke that when we were waiting on people to catch up from the group, that someone would ask, "Where's Jose?" And he and Katie would be one of the last two people to come and meet our group. They were taking in as much as they could and also taking in the culture. We had the opportunity to go up on top of Mount Sinai to see the sunrise. We woke up. Some people didn't wake up. They just stayed up. We woke up at 1:30 in the morning. That was our wake-up call. Got on a bus and arrived at the summit about 2:15 in the morning. We then got onto camels, which are not the most comfortable things to ride on, and rode 3/4 of the way up to Mount Sinai, and then got off, took a break, grabbed some coffee at a little shop they had 3/4 of the way up, and then walked the rest of the way up. Too bad it was one of the cloudiest days we had there. We did not get to see much of the sun. But on our way back down, we took the 6,000 steps that the monks from the monastery at the bottom of the mountain take every morning and night as a way of prayer. They take 6,000 steps up, 6,000 steps down. These are not steps like these. They're very uneven. That day I walked down with Jose and Katie, and as usual, we were the last to come down and last to get to the bus. We finally got down the mountain, and this Bedouin shepherd boy came up and was trying to sell something that he had in his hand, and I just brushed him off. I was deadbeat tired, wanted to get to the bus, take a nap, wanted to take a shower, and didn't want to be left at the bottom of Mount Sinai. Jose and Katie stopped to talk to this boy, and other friends of his came and joined to talk to these two Americans. I was frustrated and let it show as I waited at a distance. But as I turned back to look and see what they were doing, I saw that they were getting an experience that I could not have because I just brushed them off. They were allowing the boys to show them what they had sell and talk to them about what it was to be a Bedouin shepherd. It only added 10 minutes to our commute to the bus. Now I wonder if my brushing off was a little too hasty. Have you ever brushed off someone because you were too busy to talk to them or got angry because of how they approached you? A coworker who needs help, a child in your class who might have a question, but you're trying to get these grades in before the end of the day, or some person on the street who asks help for your car, for help with their car. I wonder if Jesus was just brushing off this woman because he was too busy to realize the need at hand. It is still pretty offensive at first glance. Jesus just compared this woman to a dog. It was very common back then for Jews to talk about Gentiles and those of other religions and refer to them as dogs. Usually the Greek word was kion. In the story of David and Goliath, Goliath says, "Am I some sort of dog that you come at me with sticks?" This comparison with a dog was insulting and dishonoring. But Jesus did not use kion. Here in Mark, Jesus uses kinarion, which translates as little dog or lap dog. I think of my little Boston Terrier, Bella. This softens his statement, but still is pretty harsh. During the time of Jesus, there was also this philosophical group that was coming up, and they were highly critical of current social and cultural conventions and political institutions. They would go around and upset the social structure by approaching people against custom and acting forcefully against societal customs. They referred to themselves as kines, as dogs. This woman, the way she approached Jesus, was almost in the same manner as the kines, as this group of philosophical group. So maybe Jesus was just assuming that this woman was from that group and was calling her by a name that she would call herself. But even this address, in any way you put it, was inappropriate because of the preceding story. In Mark chapter 7, verses 1 through 23, Jesus is arguing with the Pharisees about the purity laws and Jewish customs. He already had talked about getting rid of the boundaries we have put up as humans and worry more about what we say and do. Do not worry about what comes into a man or into one's body, but what leaves it. Jesus said, nothing outside a person can enter and contaminate a person in God's sight. Rather, the things that come out of a person contaminate that person. With this statement and others, Jesus broke down the borders between the clean and the unclean, the rich and the poor, the Jews and the Gentiles. Jesus constantly preached about loving everyone, no matter their race, faith, or where they were in life. In our passage today, Jesus asked to practice what he has preached. He is in a Gentile city and has a woman coming to him asking for healing of her daughter. This is not the first time that Jesus has healed a foreigner. In Mark chapter 5, Jesus healed the demonic from the Decapolis, who was a Gentile. This is the first and only time that Jesus loses an argument in the book of Mark. So how does Jesus react when he loses this argument? He does not get mad and continue to argue. He graciously concedes to this Syrophoenician woman. He has already taught that religious customs should not stand in the way of doing good for those in need. Now Jesus must learn that social conventions should not either. Jesus shows his human nature in this passage. He must learn the same thing we all must. We must learn to practice what we preach. We must learn to love everyone. This woman was the first person to ever argue with Jesus and win. She understood more of Jesus' teaching than even his disciples. Jesus was constantly having to go off into a room or go off with his disciples and re-explain what he had just taught to a group of people. And right before our passage today, in verses 17 through 23, Jesus takes his disciples off and explains what happened with the purity laws. And after explaining it a second time, they still don't get it. And he just looks at them, "Are you so dull that you don't understand?" Do we treat everyone the same way, no matter their race, religious background, or socioeconomic status? Are we willing to serve the rich, the poor, and the middle class? Are we willing to serve Caucasians, African Americans, Asians, and all other races in our world? Are we willing to serve Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, Muslims, atheists, and all the extremists in each of these groups and more? This is a hard concept for us to overcome. Our human nature fights against us. Jesus had to learn this, and so should we. Let's break down the borders we have made for ourselves personally and as a congregation. Let's show God's love, Christ's love, to the entire kingdom of God, regardless of any borders we have put up.